So for this project, I'm gonna show you how to make a cylindrical box. It is a project made using a slab method. To start out, you will need to make two smaller pieces of slab. In this case, I made one larger one. I just cut it in half. You will need one big piece of slab. For the big piece of slab, there is a requirement. It needs to be minimum of 15 inches in length after it's cut down from any excesses and so forth. You will have to work with a 90-degree square, and what you will have to do is, first of all, we will trim any undesired edges. So if you have anything right here that is a little bit getting narrow at the top, first of all I will cut that off. Make sure your ruler doesn't move. And I will cut any of the edges so to remove any of this excess, so it's really neat. The 90 degrees will ensure that your piece is exactly 90 degrees. Once you've got the cut and you've got almost a perfect length, you need to measure. And you need to have 15 inches total measurement. So this will be 12 inches here. You can make a tiny little dot. And in this instance we need 3 more inches. So we'll line it up to that dot. And this will make a 15-inch mark. Again, line up the ruler perfectly to the edge alongside. And all of the rest of this is scrap. Doesn't seem like I may have cut through all the way. There it goes. Then you can just polish it up. After you've done all that, you will take this. I try not to handle the clay as much as you can, instead pull it on this particular piece of canvas. You will line it up exactly to the edge of the table. Place the knife. You will need to create 45-degree cuts using a knife. That makes it stick better when you work with slab, and also it stays easier so it doesn't just fall apart on that edge. The 45-degree angle is beveled. The easiest way to achieve it is you place the knife in sort of this position, which is roughly 45-degree angle. It's about half the clay. You will hold your piece, just slide the knife exactly down the edge of the table. If it's just slightly off, so it's maybe 47 degrees or 43 degrees or whatever, that's perfectly fine. That's not going to make a huge difference on your piece. But if you cut a very different angle, so you only cut 10-degree angle and such, then your piece will not be good. You will have to recut. This is really important. So when you've cut your angle like this, the way you will have to cut your angle is you will place your piece or your hand onto the piece of clay in the back, neatly separating it. Try not to stretch the clay. When you lift it off, you will place it backwards onto its state. So your piece or the 45-degree angle should be facing exactly the way it's pointing right now. If it's pointing up, that's not good. You will have to change the direction. Again, you will place this against the edge of the table. Take a knife, do another 45-degree angle. Okay. Once that's cut, smooth everything out using water. Now it's ready to be put together. So the first thing you will do is you will need this tube. You will need a couple of paper towels. They need to be dry, and you will put them neatly around the tube. The purpose of paper towels, just like in a couple of previous projects, is for things not to get stuck to the tube. If it gets stuck, it can be challenging to remove, and then it can actually break apart. What I like to do is put the tube on top and then slowly roll up the clay. So at this point I'm not pressing with the tube, I'm just trying to form this piece of clay. So I'm very slowly moving the tube, make sure to tuck in the wire, and I'm just trying to kind of match it up. When I'm pretty close to being a match, I will lift this and I will basically match it up. You have to check at this point, make sure that everything is correct. In my instance, it is. It will match up. If you look at the edges, they would actually match up. It's staying slightly. Our tube is, or the clay is going tightly around the tube, so there's no gaps or air and so forth. So it's good to be put together. If you cut too short of a clay, obviously you won't be able to reach the tube. If you got too much, you will have too much clay around it, so it will flip-flop. At that point, you will have to recut your clay. Once you've got this part, I will just slightly separate the piece of clay. I will take my scoring tool, score the edges around, take a brush, get some slip, apply slip on both sides, which you already know how to do. And at this point I'm ready for it to be put together. So the way to put it together is I will rotate it to the top. I will just gently start putting pressure onto the seam. And as the seams go together, then I will just go slightly on top and just start blending those seams in. I still want to put some more pressure on there. This also evens out everything. So once this is smoothed out, I will take this off the canvas, place it neatly. I will tap it around the edge, basically molding it, going around, pressing the clay all the way top to bottom, making the cylinder as perfect as I can. So once you've made your cylinder, or your body portion of the cylinder, you need to finish the bottom part. You will take a knife and you will gently cut around the bottom, trying to match it as close as you can to the body of the shape of the cylinder. Later on, when the object is actually leather hard, you will be able to slightly paddle any imperfections. So if that's your choice, you can do that, but if you do this part really accurately, then really there is no need for any of that to be done. Alright, once I've done that, I can break up the piece of clay, the excess, throw it out. I've got the piece of clay underneath, so of course I will want to separate it. When I wedged this clay, I actually made it slightly, I added water to it, so it's a little bit more wet, and that does help with the clay being stuck together. The first part I want to do with this, before I attach it, is I want to smooth it out. Then you will score it with the scoring rig. You will repeat the same process. to the bottom of the cylinder, just like so. You want it nice and scratched up. If you don't have it scratched up, it will come apart. Alright, when we did that, again, the process is the same, which you already know at this point. You will apply some slip. Once the edges have been smoothed out relatively, you can take the cylinder portion off. You have to remove the cardboard piece in the center and let your cylinder get slightly leather hard before you apply the top. The top is applied the same way, so you will take your cylinder from the top, turn it upside down in the leather hard form. You will cut a piece of clay out just like we did for the bottom portion and apply it the same way. After you apply that and it's all leather hard, at that point you can cut the center out, which I will show you in the next segment, and when this piece has gotten leather hard, and you will apply reinforcements on the inside and eventually your design. So at this point I let this sit for a short time. It's ready to be cut. You might notice a thin line that's running around it. I actually drew the design that I'm gonna apply for cutting the cylinder. One of the big things that you want to watch out for is for undercuts. Undercuts mean that it's a cut where the top part can't actually separate from the bottom part without bending or breaking something. So you want to make sure that when you apply your design that it's not swirling in and so forth, where the top part basically will have an obstacle to pass through when you're cutting. For this part we will be using a cutting tool, or a saw tool, excuse me, and I will just insert the saw tool, and then instead of applying the pressure onto the pot, I will actually rotate or use the saw tool just like a mini little saw. So I will go to the other side where I started and inserted the beginning spot and just cut through it, rotating the saw blade. Once we've made the cut, the top part should come undone. I will gently lay it here. So what you want to do at this point is you will want to score that a bit, and since the area is so small, I will actually use a knife to score up the area because I can't reach it using the rib, scoring rib. So I will score up the area where I want to apply. And once I've scored the area, I will break this piece of coil that I've made and make it even thinner. The other half will be used for the bottom. So you want to make sure that you make a relatively thin little coil. You will want to apply some slip again and reinforce both top and bottom. I will take this, apply it in there, attach it. Once I attach it, you want to put your hand on the outside. Because if you don't, your balls will break off. So you want to really apply that. Once you've got the whole coil attached, at that point you can take a wooden tool and you can smooth out the coil on the inside. What you also want to do is put some water on your finger. I will not smooth the coil because you already know how to do all that from the beginning of this semester.